Are we on?
We're on, baby.
Dude, Merry Christmas.
It's the most wonderful
Wonderful
time
time
of the
of the year.
year.
That probably sounded
Yeah.
terrible as we all canceled each other out
I
singing
actually
at once.
felt like it sounded. I felt like we did a decent sort of harmony there, Matt.
Yeah, this Beach Boys level harmony is going on. But IRL, it would have sounded so beautiful and euphonious. But I don't know, I think it was a little muted. But it is Christmas. We're time warping.
Merry Christmas.
Very Dickensian idea, time warping, to bring you this maybe video episode.
Merry whatever holiday.
Merry whatever, non-denominational, serotonin Darwin Day or whatever.
Is the word merry problematic?
Why?
Happy holidays?
What's wrong with What's wrong with Merry now?
What's wrong?
Is it
what's wrong with
problematically
Mary?
attached to Christmas specifically? I don't know.
Ooh, you don't hear it often otherwise.
No one says Merry Hanukkah.
Although they should
Yeah,
be able to.
yeah. You should be able to say it at any time you want. No one uses it.
Merry Easter.
Right.
That's also Christian though.
Merry Halloween.
Merry Halloween.
Merry Passover. Why not?
Right.
Merry birthday.
Yeah, these all work. This is all Merry is so valid.
Okay, normalize hashtag normalize Merry.
Yeah. Come
That's
on.
our message from this episode is normalize Merry.
Because
I think they say Merry in Alice in Wonderland. I think they say have a merry on birthday because they celebrate on
have a
birthdays.
very
merry. Yeah.
Very merry on birthday. Yeah.
But Carol was
That's
a wordsmith.
Drugs.
They
Drugs.
unlock creativity. This is a fact. Everyone's better on drugs.
Drug book.
Drug book banned. Perma banned Carol. Christmas.
The S in Hunter S. Thompson is the same S at the end of Lewis Carroll.
And Paul's right. It stands for spliff.
Yeah, it's spliff.
Which is what they use to make themselves insane enough to write some of these things about rabbits having tea parties or whatever the fuck.
Opium spliff.
Crazy. Laced. I feel similarly about mirth. I think mirth is maybe one of my favorite words. I feel like it's just such a nice, warm, cozy word. You know what I mean? Like, we had a mirthful time and stuff, and it's so adjacent to merry, yet neither word is used enough. Merry has the Christmas bump, you know what I mean, in profile, but mirth needs to be used a lot more.
They both seem to me in non-Christmas context to be alcoholic words.
Red face.
Like anyone who says the word mirth in like July, I just think they're an alcoholic. They must be.
Right. Yeah.
What is mirth again?
Cheeks.
It's like the three wise guys in the Bible. They give
the three mafia guys that come to give Jesus. Oh yeah, you fucking little you can't refuse.
It's Vito, Gino, and
Santa Marino. And that's Christmas. And we're professionals, which is why we've been orbiting around Christmas this whole time, even while riffing. I mean, just we're incredible at this point. We've transcended. I don't mind saying it. We're incredible.
We're incredible at what we do.
And
TFW, you're good at your job.
And so today, what we're going to do is bring you the B-sides to an author who wrote one of the most famous Christmas stories of all time. Did we say Paul? David Copperfield. Paul, did you want to introduce
Chevy Chase
That's National Lampoon's Christmas is
National
must
Lampoon's
see
Christmas
watching.
Vacation.
Yeah, I'll introduce.
Yeah.
He also, I think he wrote Planes, Trains, and Automobiles too, or at least what the. Not exactly a Christmas novel.
We are talking about John Candy, if you
right.
Famous Victorian author.
It's been pointed out that it's so funny that he's fat and his name's John Candy.
Because
John Fat Candy
makes you fat.
Yeah. That's how he died, overdosing on candy, right? It was too many cow's tails.
They're so good. They're so good.
They are good. If I had one candy to overdose on, it would be cow's tails.
Underrated candy. Underrated candy.
It's creamy. Oh.
Go on, Paul.
So we're talking about Charles Dickens.
Yeah. Charles Dickens, the great American author from England.
This is gonna be so difficult to get through.
Well, we wanted to do a Christmas episode, and we thought we should try to find some Christmas stories. And my idea was, well, I read A Christmas Carol every year, and in my Christmas Carol book, there's other stories in there that I never read. So I was like, why don't we read a couple other Dickens novellas? So we decided on two. We decided on The Haunted Man and The Chimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say right off the bat, I did not read The Chimes. We were recording this episode, and I thought we were doing
most wonderful.
I just feel like this is a time of year to be truthful and honest with your friends.
That's
and
so
I
nice.
just got to say it. I did not read it. I read the other book.
That's so nice of you, Paul.
Yeah.
I really feel like
I will say I this was brand new information to me that Dickens had written a whole cycle of Christmas sort of, novellas. Obviously I was familiar with A Christmas Carol, but I had no idea that that was just one of 5 sort of, equally not significant, but equally kind of festive novellas that he had written about Christmas. That was brand new information to me. I don't know about you two.
Well, yeah, I mean, Paul, you must have known for a long time, I guess.
Yeah, because they're in my book.
Right.
I just didn't really think about it. I never really thought to read the other ones. But yeah, I've known for probably like 5 years that he wrote some other novellas, and I always thought it was cool. I just never really dove into them. So, and I only dove into one this time around.
You got 3 more to go.
Well, I have many Christmases to go.
I guess, like, I don't know if it's true, but part of the whole notion of Christmas as a holiday to be celebrated as it is, or something like that, like in the more contemporary sense, was partially like jump started by Dickens, and like just sort of emphasizing this time of year for reasons that are, I don't know. I guess he kind of partially invented contemporary Christmas because people could not get enough of these things, which is why he wrote 5. Like, people were like, every year we're like clamoring for the next Dickens like Christmas tale, which is very funny to think about as well.
Basically, he was the J.K. Rowling of his time.
Mm-hmm.
but you're right, Matt. I mean, I think, for a long time, Christmas didn't have the significance that it has now. There was a lot of significance attached to the new year and other sorts of, like lunar and solar. I don't fucking know anything about any of that shit. But like the date of Christmas didn't have a ton of significance until, and Dickens is attributed with having a lot of sort of significance in great, our contemporary understanding of the sort of the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day experience.
Right, like emphasis on like time with your family.
Yes.
And just sort of mirthful, sort of bonhomie, and just sort of like gathering with your family and thinking about. It's kind of like what Thanksgiving in the US is now or something too, right? Like back then. I don't know. I have no historical sense of like Christmas as a holiday.
I think that might be a good assessment of what it would have been like, maybe. Like just
more of like a
have
feast day.
Yeah, like a feast day, like giving thanks, but there's also no I wonder when Santa Claus was like incorporated more too, because I'm serious though, because that's obviously a big part of what Christmas is now, but he's not in the Christmas Carol or these two.
Yeah, he's nowhere to be seen.
I'm pretty sure that was in Tim Burton's famous film The Nightmare Before Christmas,
right?
Sandy Claus.
Yeah,
Jack Skellington was trying to
it was a concoction of Jack Skellington's mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no Santa Claus.
No Santa Claus. Well, there's a Santa Claus myth though in like Nordic culture that's pretty ancient. So it is an interesting. I would like to know when that all came together.
Well, there's two other of the Christmas cycle that we haven't read. And The Haunted Man, significantly, I think, is the last one that Dickens wrote. And I guess he was like a little.
So predictably, we're starting with it.
Yeah, but I think he was like, and it's funny because I found it to be pretty gloomy tale with a good, I think, like a good lesson. Like, I'm assuming, having not read 2 still, that like all of these stories so far that I've encountered have a kind of lesson, and there's some sort of supernatural element going on. But this one felt a little dark, and I guess it still like ends nicely, but yeah, I don't know. It was a little grim. It was kind of more of like, it felt Halloween like instead of Christmassy. Nightmare Before Christmas.
So Tim Burton
stole.
I mean, I will say, I think that both of these stories, and again, as you said, Matt, there's 2 others in the cycle that we haven't read yet. I think both of these stories that we're going to talk about today, The Haunted Man and The Chimes, are significantly, to me, more conceptually interesting than A Christmas Carol. I think A Christmas Carol is sort of more, it's a vibe, it's a Christmas vibe.
He created it.
He did, yeah. I think A Christmas Carol is the reason that Dickens is sort of associated with this time of year in such a strong way. But these 2 novellas that we read for tonight, I think, have much more sort of philosophically interesting themes to sort of to plumb.
Then the turn of like a wealthy man.
Christmas Carol, the message of A Christmas Carol is basically, you're rich, you should be grateful for that and be nice to other people. Okay, great. Like,
it's like a noblesse oblige or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And what we have in these 2 stories, which we'll obviously get into presently, are
so soon, guys, don't worry.
I think much more interesting sort of explorations of identity and memory, and a lot of sort of like philosophical concepts that I think are really sort of underappreciated when you're thinking about Dickens's oeuvre.
Yeah. And
I think it's pretty clear why A Christmas Carol got so popular though and the other ones didn't, though, is because I feel like Christmas Carol is so relatable and accessible to like anyone that reads it. You can put yourself in Scrooge's shoes, even though he's an old man. You can be any person and still think about like your past and yeah, Tiny Tim's shoes.
Yeah, I mean it has all of the. It's way just it's yeah, you're right. It's just way more like everything is way more of like a identifiable kind of archetype. Which
it's
I guess
home run.
Yes. It's a five-bagger.
It's
a five-bagger grand slam home run of a story.
All right, so let's talk about the Haunted Man.
Okay.
So this is a story which I think it sort of is following in the vibe of A Christmas Carol. It's about someone who is generally well off in society, but who is haunted in various literal and metaphorical ways by their past, right? So in A Christmas Carol, we're talking about a sort of business tycoon. In this story, we're talking about a university professor. And we first encounter him sort of at the end of a term, having his sort of needs attended to by some people who are assigned to his service, basically. And they bring him food and drink and whatever. And he is in what I would say a depressive state, thinking about his past and it's at the end of the year and he's sort of thinking back on his life and he's feeling very negative, I would say.
The melancholy has gripped him. The seasonal affective disorder.
Yes. He's also really old too, right? He's like 85.
No. Redlaw is how I don't know how old he is actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we ever get to visit how old Redlaw is. Redlaw is the college professor.
I don't think he's that
super old. Huh.
The father of the like keeper, like the superintendent or whatever, the people that are servicing Redlaw, right?
The Williams.
The Williamses have their father in there, and he is 87.
Oh, okay.
And he keeps saying he's 87. He seems pretty senile.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the one who's the most notably 80 years old.
Yes. I can read. I can remember things that I read about.
Dude. Me too.
Basically, Redlaw, who is a professor of we don't know what exactly. I don't think.
Isn't he a chemistry?
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
he's a chemist. Is
STEM.
Reflecting on his life and his attendants, the Williamses, leave for the night, and Redlaw is in a sort of moment that will be recognizable to anybody that has read A Christmas Carol, visited by a sort of specter, right? The difference is that this specter that visits Redlaw is a sort of weird doppelganger of himself. It's this sort of see-through, ghostly reflection of who Redlaw himself is. And I think that is already a really interesting deviation from, say, A Christmas Carol. Did that jump out to you guys?
Yeah, I thought that was really fucking awesome and scary. It was like a really spooky idea to have a ghost form in front of you that's yourself. And it I don't even know if it really classifies as a ghost. It's a specter. Right. It's a spook.
It's it's like a manifestation of like his worst impulses and most like negative thoughts.
Yeah. It was awesome.
And Paul and I were listening to this in audiobook form on a drive, and it was
to see Gabe.
Out to see Gabe.
Let's go.
Shout out.
10 hours in
to the drive. And I don't want to like shit on the guy who was doing it, but it was mostly whack as hell. But his ghost,
haunted man,
his specter voice was genuinely chilling.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was the only character I feel like, ironically enough, that he made come to life. Was like this like weird misty like apparition that like just takes on more weight via like darkness as the more and more of the melancholy kind of like sits with this character. It was really cool.
Yeah, he did a great job with the voice acting with that character for sure. And I think they also did a little bit of effect to his voice, like some reverb. So? I would have to go back. In my head, that's what happened, but I was also going insane driving for 11 hours.
Imagine just like this like weird British thespian voice, like, and upon the ghostly visage did appear darkness colder than the coldest night. Oh, did he see? And you're just like, it's like, and it's a lot of that. So.
And Matt and I are just driving through Illinois.
Yeah.
And in silence, listening to this man's voice. So picture that.
Your eyes are just like slowly widening, like. I mean, I will say,
interesting experience.
I will say in that connection that I thought that this story was really scary. I mean, even the sort of description of Redlaw's sort of living quarters in the university, when it went on for pages and pages, and it was so detailed and so weird and so spooky, that it was almost sort of like postmodern in a way, where it was just this overemphasis on like these weird minute details that have nothing to do with the story, and literally like talking about the physics of the wind blowing through this and that hallway for paragraphs.
Yes. It's like Tolkien.
Yeah.
Talking about moss on the fucking trees. It's like, nice.
Yeah. Nice. Sweet.
Well, I think but obviously this isn't a postmodern at all story. And I think that it's funny because like
modernism means that everything is postmodern.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, so it's the contain. Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry. You have a PhD.
P.
Piled high indeed. Didn't Dickens get paid by the word? Wasn't that part of it a little bit? It was a way more lucrative. If it's fucked up because it's like I feel like writing was like a way more lucrative profession or something back then. Like they had a lot more prestige, and like so he could do it, he could pull it off because like Dickens, if the man can describe the fuck out of anything, and his ability to, like Gabe said, describe creepy and coldness, the feeling of coldness.
Yeah.
I've not read anything even close to that. But doesn't he? I thought he got paid by the word.
It was like a shilling
word. I think that's right. And there was Dickens was definitely fatigued by the time he was done writing these Christmas novellas, to the point that he was like, I feel like I've lost the sort of thread as to why I started doing these in the first place, which was to try to impart, you know, a moral sort of lesson to the people that was reading them. And by the time he was done, it was kind of like, what am I even doing anymore?
Well, did you mention on mic that his sister in real life died?
No. So okay, so let's just go to that right now, because basically what happens after the Williamses leave Redlaw and he's alone is that he's visited by, similarly to what happens in A Christmas Carol, by a spirit, except that it is a sort of weird doppelganger of himself, as we said. And he offers him this weird sort of Faustian bargain where I will give you the ability to retain all of your academic knowledge and all of your sort of accumulated experience, but forget all of the bad things that have ever happened to you and all of the wrongs that have been done to you. And Redlaw is tempted to this deal by the fact that his sister has recently died. And that has had a really profound effect on him and his view on sort of mortality. And that adds to his sort of temptation to taking this deal. And it's interesting because this story specifically, which I don't know if it was the last or the second to last, but it was toward the tail end of the cycle of Christmas novellas that Dickens wrote, was written a couple of months after Dickens' own sister died. So I think
this is the last. Yeah, this is the last. I just all to say that just like the darkness that you can feel creeping into this one, which, you know, I think, yeah, I think Dickens was a little fucking sick of writing about fucking Christmas. He's kind of like had to like, you know, tend to this monster that he himself created a little bit, I believe. Yeah, was still trying to like negotiate, was clearly now just trying to like, had lost the thread probably a bit and was trying to like just go through some shit of his own via this thing because he like wanted the paycheck, but he was a professional. I'm not saying he was just in it for the cash, but you know what I mean? Like he was a noted author who didn't want to let people down, who was going through personal turmoil. And like I just think it's so like clearly in this particular story at the end of something he didn't want to do anymore.
I am kind of surprised that she only died before this story, because in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge's sister Fran dies. They never clearly say when, but she dies, you know, and then only her son, Scrooge's nephew, is left, who's the guy that comes in and is like, "Merry Christmas, Uncle," and all that shit. So I thought that maybe she had died before Christmas Carol too, but it turns out she only died before this one, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and
I also a sister death runs through multiple stories.
I also just forget where Christmas Carol lies in the cycle, if it was the first or where it is. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know either. No.
But so
Gabe, do you know?
It's definitely early in the cycle. I think I want to say it's the second.
That's kind of fun, like reading all 5 and following like a little bit like the emotional trajectory over that period of time, like within a Christmas themed cycle of stories. I don't know. That would be an interesting reading experience.
Yeah.
But like Gabe was saying, Redlaw takes this bargain eventually to cease feeling the pain over the loss of his sister, and you know, his like, I don't know, dark negative kind of doppelganger manifestation of his brain makes it seem like a no-brainer. He's like, come on, like you won't feel.
It's the first. I just looked it up. Christmas Carol.
It is the first. Okay, cool. Yeah, he's like, you won't remember any bad thing that's ever happened to you, and I believe nor will you retain anything bad that happens in the future to you or something like that. I forget exactly. You were getting a little objective, like whatever, like plot holy about it, but
Mahler,
don't invoke him. But the twist to the Faustine bargain is, of course,
the Oliver twist.
The Oliver. Nice, dude. You know what? Game recognized game. It's contagious,
right?
Which is another kind of strange idea. Like, if you whoever you talk to is also going to, you know, the spirit frames it as contract this blessing. But it's yeah, everyone who comes into contact with Red Law is also going to not remember anything negative that's ever happened to them.
Which what a bizarre sort of wrinkle to all of this, right? Like it which is why I think that these novellas are so interesting, because I think they add such a layer of weirdness to Dickens that I never thought was there. I sort of, you know, I think Dickens, I think sort of Victorian morality tales, et cetera, et cetera. But in these stories, we get a bunch of like weird, like borderline sci-fi elements that I find fascinating. That this guy now is saddled with this contagious memory erasing virus. Like, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
it is bizarre. It's spooky too. I mean, I forget the first woman he comes in contact. Red, what was it? Redwood, Red Vine,
Red Law.
Red Law. He comes in contact with a woman, and it's from her perspective, and she kind of sees him in the street, and he becomes kind of a specter himself. Like, she sees him, and he's like absolutely terrifying to her, and she can't even like put her finger on exactly why. He's just kind of like standing, and that whole scene was really freaking spooky to me too. It was undeniably way scarier than A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And I did not read the Chimes, but it was pretty scary.
Well, I mean, as you would expect, probably Red Law quickly learns that it's not a blessing, it's a curse.
Right.
And that he can't feel anything. That without the, you know, the counterpoint kind of bedrock, it's always darkest before the dawn. Yep. He's kind of devoid of feeling, which is why I think he ends up looking so scary to this woman in the like POV scene, because he's just like, he's like barely a human anymore. He's like completely devoid of empathy or any kind of sympathy, just nothing.
But I also took it as like he had already began like stealing her memories too.
Did he give it to her? I wonder how close do you have to be? Do you have to start talking to someone to give them the curse?
Mahler.
I don't know.
Mahler. Well, now I'm just curious.
But it is unclear a little bit, you know, because eventually Red Law sort of realizes, and this is all sort of surrounding the theme, which is a recurring phrase in the story that is first uttered to Red Law by the elder Williams, the caretaker, in his sort of office when they're giving him dinner. They're talking about, oh, you know, all I have is my memory, and that's what sort of gives my life meaning. And there's this sort of phrase, Lord, keep my memory green, that is sort of recurring throughout the story. And I think that, you know, Red Law is struggling with the value of memory throughout the whole thing. And, you know, eventually he comes to this point where he recognizes, as you said, Matt, that this is a sort of curse and that I'm sort of causing more harm than good. And he tries to devise a way to do something positive with this curse that he's given, this contagious sort of memory erasing virus that he's contracted almost. And he goes to essentially basically a leprechaun, right? Like a house that has a bunch of sick people who have sort of sick and homeless people who have been harmed in various ways by life. And his thought is, okay, well, what can I use this contagious memory erasing thing for, I'm going to go help these people forget all of the terrible things that have happened in their lives.
Is that a reaction to having seen how the other more like vibrant people in his immediate circle, notably the Tetterbys, who are kind of like just a stand-in, cozy, working class kind of family with a lot of kids who are like genuinely pleased with each other and have a great rapport and all this kind of stuff? Like, doesn't he start to see how his influence by giving them this curse fucks up their whole family, and so he feels guilty and he needs to run to the leprechaun? He's like, who are the most desperate people? These people marked for death who just need some easement, or not easement, but like assuaging of their mortal fears before they're dead. And even that doesn't really work.
Yeah. I skipped over that part a little bit, for sure. So the Tetterbys, which we are sort of introduced to kind of randomly, like we see
hard cut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a we hard cut after he interacts with this demon that gives him this curse / gift, whatever, regarding his memory. And then we hard cut to this family, the Tetterbys. And then we gradually learn that they are relevant to the story because they are housing this sick student that we had learned about earlier. And Redlaw takes it upon himself to go visit the student. And he winds up corrupting the Tetterbys and the student with his sickness, basically.
Which is weird. Like, their family dynamic is ruined. You know what it reminds me of a lot is Pixar's Inside Out. You gotta feel bad to feel good. Okay?
Yeah. It's definitely a bit of that.
You know what I mean? It's like it's like tropical swirl gushers or whatever. Like, you mix the flavors together, and now you're really experiencing life. But the Tetterbys forget, like, I'm assuming, like, moments when they made their siblings cry, or like taking care of your sick loved one and all this kind of stuff, and they start to just become really cold with each other. And like, I think the main thrust is that, like, obviously that you need that good and bad are interlinked and like inextricable from one another. Fuck, I lost my thread.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think no, but
I mean, little pea brain can only hold one thought at a time.
This is a sort of another vehicle for Dickens to sort of make a point about moral theory, which is that, like, all of your good memories are meaningless in the absence of their counterpoints, right? Like, it doesn't mean anything that you have a positive, good memory about something. In the case of Redlaw, specifically his sister dying and all these various, like, harms that have come to him and that he has caused, none of that matters unless you have the counterpoint, which is all the things that have been bad and wrong and harmful in your life. And so it's a claim about memory to me.
It's actually like it's like a cooler version of a Dementor. Because Dementors only suck out the good memories, but to have a Dementor suck out the bad ones, and it still ruins you and turns you into a lifeless vessel of a body.
Imagine.
Is pretty hard. Is pretty fucking smart, and J.K. Rowling sucks.
It's pretty smart to do an opposite Dementor for your story before her. Wow. 5 snitches.
Five snitches.
Fuck! I had such a good point that you'll never hear because I forgot it.
Oh, I hate when that
You'll
happens.
only hear Matt's good point if you subscribe to the Patreon that still doesn't exist.
My OnlyFans.
Yeah, your OnlyFans is like the things you forgot to say on the podcast.
I thought it was just for my fans only, and I could just tell them cool stuff that I remembered.
Just tell your dad you made an OnlyFans account.
Oh, I'm sure he would take that really well.
Dad, I have an OnlyFans.
Dad.
So,
I mean, that's the story.
Yeah.
Just that you have to, you have to retain the negative, or or everything is leveled out, which is the whole problem with Redlaw, and then eventually everybody, is that like they become, I think it's really like people become completely atomized and like myopic about anything. Like it feels a lot like pain is the thing that provides perspective, basically. Like
yes,
everyone just loses sight of each other weirdly, even though you would think, even though it's like commonly like held, I feel like that like pain is one of those like weird in like philosophical thought experiments. Like pain always used as like a way to like show subjectivity's impenetrability or whatever? Like no one can know your pain, but like
right, because there's no sort of there's no universal referent, right? There's no thing that we can all appeal to that says, oh, this is what pain feels like to me, because anyone can say, well, that's not what it feels like to me.
Yeah. I don't know where it's just weird that it's used in like almost the opposite effect in this book, or in this like novella, where it's like, no, this is what provides people with a notion of like what their acts, how their acts affect others and why that's important. And like, I don't know, it's the thing that creates a sense of other people or something like that.
Yes.
Is what I feel like Dickens is wrestling with.
And I just think that this is such a more fertile sort of ground to work with for Dickens, because, obviously something like A Christmas Carol, it's working with memory, but it's working with memory in a way that's sort of like very individualistic and very sort of, and as we'll see when we move into the discussion of the Chimes next, Dickens is like deeply concerned with class. He's deeply concerned with politics. He's deeply concerned with the way that political structures create individual experiences of the world. And I think that this story is a sort of, not a precursor to the Chimes, but it is relevant to those sorts of concerns.
Well, it's a post-Chimes story, but I mean, you're right. I think what? Yeah. Literally all of them that we've read so far are about
invite myself and I quit the podcast.
I'm sorry if you can't take a robust, healthy criticism and sort
timeline
of
criticism
and sort of engage with these high-level ideas, Gabriel.
My name is Gabe Rubin.
No, but they all have the, I mean, it's Victorian England, so like class is pretty stark in terms of its determining influence on whoever. And again, not to keep appealing to his biography, but I think Dickens also had a little bit of the old up and down and back up again financial experience with like his family and his father his whole family being put in a debtor's prison at one point, and him kind of clawing his way back to the top and being really aware of the precarity and sort of obsessed with money and all that.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, right? Like, because you can have that sort of experience, right? You can have that sort of class experience, and
and not go that way.
And not go that way. Yeah, exactly. Like you can have like two people can have the same class experience that you just described, Matt, and one of them can become, you know, like an insane rightist lunatic, and one of them can become someone who feels a sort of organic concern for people who came from the same place that they did but did not have the same you know, random luck outcomes that they had. And I think Dickens falls into the latter category, and I think that you really see that in these Christmas stories.
Well, in The Haunted Man specifically, I think that's like experiencing arbitrary pain and loss and all this kind of stuff is what tends to prevent you from becoming like a weird meritocracy pilled psychopath. You know what I mean? Like
meritocracy pilled is like we need to copyright that.
Yeah, that's really good.
The final character I feel like who didn't get enough mention because of her importance to like the cap of the story is Millie.
Yes.
Who kind of cures everybody just through the sheer power of her personality.
She's kind of like the Tom Bombadil of the story.
Elaborate, Paul.
Well, she's like,
you're not wrong.
She's a little bit, she's like not unwilling, but she's like not exactly immune, but she has power over his power. So she can kind of bring him.
What do you mean by Tom Bombadil, though? What is just create the parallels for me?
Well, okay, I think I know what you mean. I get it.
Well,
he turns into a bear. That's all I know about him.
That's not Tom Bombadil.
Who's that?
That's Bear or Bearer or whatever.
No, what's his name? No, that's Tom Bombadil.
No, Tom Bombadil can put on the ring of power and not go invisible. He takes it off. He's like, fuck this.
He's ring. A werebear as well.
No, he's not.
Fucking yes, he is, dude. Come on.
Dear listener, figure this out and send me an email at spinecrackers@gmail.com.
Dude, you read the Silmarillion. Okay, hold on.
I did not read the Silmarillion.
Yeah, you did.
No, I did not.
Dork, motherfucker. All right.
I'm not a dork.
I'm not a nerd, dude.
I'm not a dork.
Okay. So why are we talking about this? What's the connection, do you think, to the Dickens story?
Well, Tom Bombadil can like basically overcome the evils of the One Ring of Power. He doesn't like care about it at all. He's like, yeah, exactly. And Millie's kind of the same way. Like she's incapable of just like having her memory be destroyed by the specter that is
and in fact, he actually, so this is the wife of the caretaker of Redlaw's sort of university housing complex or whatever. I don't know how the fuck this shit worked back then, but these are the caretakers, and the wife, Millie, essentially acts as a sort of curative for Redlaw's disease. Like, so if Redlaw interacts with someone and corrupts their memory, if they subsequently interact with Millie because she's wholesome and whatever, which, I think there's some fucking fucked up gender shit there as well, obviously. Because she's so wholesome, their memory is restored to its normal state.
Yeah, I kind of wish her character was just review bra. That would have made it a lot more.
He is somebody that I just
genderfied.
He just goes. That is somebody I go back to just center myself. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm feeling. Yeah, if I'm ever feeling down.
Yeah. I'm all fucked up feeling. I'm just like, gotta watch some videos and really just see things in perspective. And he's just like eating a spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I was thinking.
Oh, and Matt, the character that turns into a bear is Bear, Beorn, Beorn.
Beorn?
Not Tom Bombadil. Beorn. He's in The Hobbit. Tom Bombadil's in the Fellowship of the Ring. God.
Dude, maybe I'm just conflating the two. I was looking him up on Wikipedia to see if I could do a quick scope you, but like there was so much lore. There was so much lore. No, I'm not wrecked yet. I'm gonna fucking come back.
Well, so let's move on and talk about the second story for the evening. Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way.
Merry Christmas.
Wait, can I have one more comparison that I thought of? I'm sorry. To The Haunted Man. I thought of Fargo while I was reading it.
The show or the movie?
The movie. Because Millie reminded me of Marge Gunderson as like the pure force of good that kind of moves through all of the completely self-centered, short-sighted, like disgusting evil of all the other characters, and like and makes it not a movie of complete nihilism.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's it.
I love that.
Okay. Now on to the Chimes.
So
I didn't.
The Chimes, which Paul didn't read.
Because I didn't read it and I need more alcohol and I have to go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go right now.
All right, I'll pause the recording and we'll come right back. And Paul's gonna pee and poop and drink
and poop.
Bye. I'm gonna poop, mostly poop.
Diarrhea.
All right, so the next story we're gonna talk about is the Chimes, which is another of these 5 sort of Dickens Christmas novella cycles. And I think that one of the things that's interesting about this story compared to the other ones, even the one that we just talked about, The Haunted Man and A Christmas Carol, is that this is about a poor guy. This is about someone who is downtrodden, oppressed by society, rather than someone like Redlaw or who the fuck is it in a Christmas Carol?
Ebenezer Scrooge.
That's really embarrassing that I couldn't even come up with Scrooge. Scrooge and Redlaw, who are basically in the upper crust of society, they're college professors and successful business people. This is about someone who is at the bottom tier of society. They're a porter, which I don't really know what it means exactly.
Bag boy, messenger, dog's body.
They deliver letters, they deliver, packages. Bag boy, exactly what Matt said. And he has this sort of weird experience where he feels like he is being spoken to by these church bells above his sort of hovel.
Yeah. Right? What is the full title again? I kind of forget, but it's funny. It's like, or the Goblin of Winter.
Yeah.
What is it called?
So the full title is The Chimes, a goblin a goblin story of some bells that rang an old year out and a new year in.
Right. This is also about memory, but it's more in the Christmas Carol vein of like a speculative fiction of a possible immediate future. But yeah, like Gabe says, it's kind of turned on its head because it's inverted now. It's basically a very poor person who is getting a view at a potential future.
An Oliver Twist type character.
What, Paul?
I said an Oliver Twist like character.
And I think it's sort of interesting. I mean, I feel like this story really brought out Dickens's class concerns for me, because the sort of impetus for the whole story is this poor guy, his daughter finds another sort of like, a husband who's also sort of poor, working class kind of guy. And they interact with this group of rich guys, lawyers, politicians. and they kind of make these people out to be delusional, right? Like, why would you? I mean, it's really sort of sick. It's almost sad. Like, it's a bunch of rich people telling poor people, like, why would you even bother having kids? All they're just going to be, they're just going to be thieves. They're going to be poor. They're going to die unhappy.
I love that section. Was so fucking good. Like,
yeah, it was fucked up, right?
Well, because like, so like the main guy's name is Toby.
Yeah.
Vec. And you know, he's sort of taking pleasure where he can, and he's vibing. It sucks. It's very cold. He works in a little, basically a toll booth.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. By a church, and you know, like he has kids. He has a really nice, a daughter, and she's about to be married, and it's all about like, again, emphasis. Meg, and Richard, I believe, is her
fiance
to be, and her husband to be, and like, you know, Toby Vec is already plagued by a notion of like, is man inherently good or evil? Is it worth being alive? Before, and it's clear then. I feel like it becomes clear where these thoughts come from and find root.
Yes.
In the like sort of, you know, pageant of like three rich guys who all represent, I feel like, different ways in which this idea of like, fuck you, the poor comes into play.
I think Toby Vec is specifically sort of you know, evincing the ideology of, it's not just, he's internalized this narrative that because you are poor, you must have done something wrong, right? Like, he views poor people as inherently evil and fucked up and angry. And I think that the part of the story is him trying to sort of overcome that narrative.
But it's not I think what's key is that it's not like overbearing to him. It's not something that he naturally considers as a truth. Like, mostly he's happy to see his daughter happy. He's excited to have a nice meal. I mean, it's you know, Dickens is still kind of like probably simplifying the issues of the poor. Let's be clear about that, I guess, like, as well, while being concerned about them. But like, it's only when people like, I forget what the three guys are. There's the sort of the one who's like, yeah, like, it's funny because it feels so contemporary.
Yes.
The things that they're saying to his daughter's face. His daughter's like so happy. She's like, I'm gonna be married. I'm so excited. There's the one guy who's like statistically, your kids are fucked. Like, why do this? Like, don't even get married. Like, you'll probably end up like being unhappy. Like, it's likely that this stuff is going to occur. So like, don't even do this. There's, and like, it's like the utilitarian.
There's Alderman Cute.
Right.
There's Mr. Filler.
Uh-huh.
And then there's Joseph Bowley.
So there's like the sort of economist / social engineer guy.
Yep.
Who's like, you know, the amount of dolors versus hedons that you're going to produce would be not worth it.
Literally, utilitarianism was an actual sort of operating factor in the characterization of these people.
When was that idea brought about? Was it when Dickens was writing, or a little after, I guess?
So
like Mill and Malthus and these people?
It was all in the same sort of mix, I think, historically.
And then there's another guy, the kind of like lifestyle guy, who's like talking to Richard, and he's like, you don't want to be fucking chained up with some bitch. Like, drink and like fuck a lot until you're dead. like don't care for a person, like blah blah blah. And then there's like the other guy who's like weirdly like pretending to be their friend, but for whatever reason, I forget what. There's a subtler one that felt like the most evil because it was the least blatant. It was like the guy who's like, you're eating this tripe soup and stuff, and he's like telling you why it's gross while he eats the rest of it.
I think that was Alderman Cute.
Alderman Cute, probably, yeah.
Which it's funny that his name is Cute. Like he like you know, it's this whole discourse of people who are better off in life, the alderman, the politician, the lawyer, whatever, talking down to someone who their life seems basically fine, but they don't even really understand that they're oppressed by these sort of other discourses, and they convince them that you deserve your state, right? Your life, your daughter's life, her marriage, you deserve that, right? It's all going to be meaningless and it's all going to be fucked up and shitty. And the dialogue between Vec and the alderman is really disturbing, because it's sort of just like the alderman convincing him that like, you don't deserve anything. You're basically worthless and your life is meaningless. And Vec internalizes that. And
I'm trying to, this feels like something that would be worth reading. You keep talking about, I'm trying to.
Yeah, well, so I just think that this is again one of these moments where these other stories are more kind of conceptually interesting than A Christmas Carol, because in this case, Vec has internalized a really problematic narrative about people in his situation, that I deserve to be poor. He literally says in the story over and over again, I was born bad. My daughter was born bad. Like, we were just born evil and fucked up and shitty. And that becomes the sort of vector of the rest of the story, which is that he finds his way up to the top of a bell tower that he has been sort of hearing in his dreams. And they tell him, you're doing yourself and other people a disservice by saying, oh, they're evil, they're wrong. Like, no, actually, you're wrong. Like, you are harming people of your class by acting as if it's this sort of weird inherent vice.
Right. The final person I forgot to identify was the weird guy who's like, things are worse now than they were, and it's still your fault, but like the sort of romantic, the good old days, you know, the kind of like Western Civ is degrading type of guy.
The Ben Shapiro motherfuckers.
There's three characters that come on the fucking wagon. All of them are immediately identifiable as types now, which is what was super striking to me. And I couldn't find a fucking specific that I was trying to read, but in particular the mill guy, the kind of utilitarian facts and figures dude, who was just saying statistically science-based, don't do anything because it's all going to lead to tragedy, was upsetting to me.
And so, ultimately, you know, he realizes that, and this is the sort of message that is, you know, communicated to him by the ghosts that he encounters in the sort of bell tower. Look, man, like, what is really wrong is you assuming that poor people are automatically bad or inhumane or fucked up. And they take him on this sort of tour, similarly to A Christmas Carol, of possible futures, and they see his daughter sort of it's actually really fucked up. Like they show him this possible future of his daughter taking a child and drowning it in the river while committing suicide.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was a very sort of potent explication by Dickens about like how sort of internalized ideology affects the way people view themselves.
Exactly. Like this is the inheritance of all these people around you who, you know, who would believe what you are believing now and like accept it.
Yes.
And it's just absolute like fucking misery and degradation, like
right.
Across the board.
Right.
And I'm, you know, my memory is unfortunately a little foggy, you know, about there was like the big speech that I'm forgetting who it is, the guy with the daughter who's kind of just been fined for vagrancy constantly.
Oh shit, yes.
I loved he like crashes some fucking fundraiser for all the aldermen.
Yep.
You know, the quote unquote champion of like the common man while not being at all the most evil character. And he's just like, he says once again shit that is like still relevant, which is like, you know, you've made it so that every turn is like punishable by imprisonment, and I I'm absolutely, I don't give a shit anymore. Like I'll crash this big party or whatever because like I you know, I'm on the streets and like that's punishable by imprisonment. Like I beg on the streets, it's punishable by imprisonment, you know, then I can't make money and then I'm back on the streets again and a vagrant and that's punishable by imprisonment. He's just like basically talking about perpetual, you know, imprisonment and how it keeps like just generating its own stock of people.
Well, also, since I don't have much to say because I didn't read this book, I did look up when the Industrial Revolution started, and it started in 1760, and it went to about 1840. So it's just
Will
around
Fern,
where
Matt.
Will Fern, and he had a daughter.
Yep.
So and it started in the UK, or I mean whatever, like Great Britain or whatever.
yeah.
Earlier. Right? I don't know. I'm thinking of like US
1760
history.
is pretty. Yeah, I mean, I think our Industrial Revolution was later, but I think it points to a manufacturing revolution like this really dictates a lot of social class influences, like just by the way that it operates. Right?
Yeah, I think it exacerbates what is already there too, like a lot, like pretty badly. Like there was already, it was basically a caste system, and then to add, I don't know, the structures of like a giant manufacturing and like conglomerate, like corporation sort of like solidifying and like growing and like finding out how to like create hierarchies within themselves and stuff. Yeah. But
some
again,
disgusting organic machine.
But
class machine.
Toby is almost like, he's like pre that though. I mean, like a porter feels like a very, like he's not working in a factory. It's more like, I guess maybe his daughter, she's kind of doing more of like this kind of rote stuff, and like the second she's not able to do it, she's going to be financially ruined. This is in like the dark, you know, alternate future. But she's probably
the Tiny Tim future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, you know, I think it's I really appreciate this sort of discussion because Dickens is good, actually. Like,
did anyone say otherwise?
Well, I think that there's this perception of Dickens that he's this sort of, oh yeah, we have a couple Christmas stories, etc. But I actually think that Dickens was deeply concerned about class politics. I think he was aware of a lot of the sort of similar concerns that we have now in his own era.
Yeah, they just never left. Like,
right.
The concerns never went anywhere. And Dickens is also, you know, I'll say, I don't know what current public perception of him is. I'm assuming it is literally A Christmas Carol is like the thing that basically everyone knows, and that's about it at this point. Like, what, A Tale of Two Cities?
Yeah.
Pickwick Papers? I haven't read any of this stuff. Like that's what I'll cop to, is like I haven't read his other like major novels or anything like that. I don't really know a lot about his work. What I also gathered just superficially was that he's a pretty good prose stylist.
No question.
Like super evocative, super I did know the other thing was like the notion of a Dickensian character being like this like cartoonish but vividly rendered person who is kind of a representative of a particular like facet of society or idea about people, human behavior or something like that. And they're like aptly named someone like Alderman Cute.
Yes.
So, ironically so. But like I was thinking, okay, so in part 3 of the Chimes, just like the way that fucking thing starts really struck me. And I'll try and read it without stumbling over it. So like, sorry, hold on. So yeah, the third quarter is what it's called, chapter 3. So it starts, this is just paragraph. Black are the brooding clouds and troubled the deep waters when the sea of thought, first heaving from a calm, gives up its dead. Monsters uncouth and wild arise in premature, imperfect resurrection. The several parts and shapes of different things are joined and mixed by chance. And when and how and by what wonderful degrees, each separates from each, and every sense and object of the mind resumes its usual form and lives again. No man, though every man is every day the casket of this type of the great mystery, can tell. I just like,
yeah,
I don't know, there's so much like that describing like internal states and like, you know, flitting from like interiority and like the emotional landscape of people in this kind of place with like vivid renderings of where they live and their actual physical reality and then their physical descriptions. It's great.
Dickens is actually a good writer. Shocking. Like
I know it is, right? It's like kind of like a little lame. Like I'm like, oh, I'm discovering.
No. It's not lame, but it's like it's one of those things that's like it's you know uncool to say. Like Dickens is good, actually.
And it was just a little sad to like discover it at this late stage or rediscover it as well.
Yeah.
And also have it be right under your nose as something, literally another type of Christmas story, like in a cycle that includes something that everyone just kind of ambiently knows.
Right.
But probably also never actually directly read or like just, you know, which is A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I've read it for the last 4 years, every year.
It's the most
wonderful time of the year, where the poor are all dying and we are all trying to make them feel cheer.
All right, y'all. Do y'all have anything to add?
Dickens good. Read Christmas Carol.
Read the cycle. If you didn't know about it, recommend it.
Yeah. I'm going to read the other ones, and I'm going to read the Chimes before Christmas Eve.
The Chimes also has some good, literally like you know, did Toby die?
No.
They told him he got crushed.
Well, that's the thing with all the Dickens novellas is that everybody thinks they died or they think they fucking, fucked up.
Or
but
doomed.
It always reverts to sort of the moment before.
Yeah.
Something. It always reverts before the moment before that something bad happens.
Yeah.
Well. The only thing I have to say about the Chimes is there's a cool part where the chimes are ringing. This is all about the new year too. It feels more about New Year's than Christmas, the Chimes, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
But
wow, whoa.
I know. Breaking news.
Come on.
But
there's ringing bells in A Christmas Carol. I mean, come on. It's Christmas.
But it reminded me of that what's the fucking Fantasia, the end, the last one where there's that demon on the mountain.
Broomsticks?
No. That's
the Last Unicorn?
Sorcerer's Apprentice. Not The Last Unicorn. That's like an anime, basically. No, the Mount Doom. The thing where it's like the devil guy on the mountain and all the like spirits come out at the end of the first
The Hobbit?
Oh my god. Not enough Tom Bombadil moment for me.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We love you. Merry
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay, have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, have a Merry Christmas.
Hey, everybody listening, Merry Christmas. Charles Dickens.
And Gabriel, who had drunk deeply of the spirits of Christmas in mirthful imbibations, did make what we call a game-time decision and end the podcast a little early.
Then a toast, my love, my dearies, to our Merry Christmas. God bless us.
God bless us. God bless us, everyone.